What if the brain of a tiny honeybee, a million times smaller than yours, powers down for the night in almost the exact same way your own brain does? We all know bees work hard, and yeah, they sleep. But how they sleep, right down to their brain activity, has been a bit of a black box until now. Groundbreaking research published in May 2025 has given us the first direct look into the sleeping honeybee brain, and what scientists found is rewriting our understanding of sleep itself. For the first time, researchers used optical neuroimaging to peer into the brains of snoozing honeybees. They discovered that when bees hit the hay, their tiny neuronal networks don't just switch off. Instead, they shift into a synchronized low-activity mode, very similar to the slow-wave, quiet sleep we experience. Even more fascinating, tiny clusters of neurons in the bee's smell processing center start firing in unison, creating rhythmic patterns that look a lot like the sleep spindles seen in sleeping mammals, including us. This is huge because it suggests a common signature of sleep at the brain network level, stretching across an incredible 600 million years of evolution that separate bees from humans. Scientists kind of expected insect sleep to be pretty basic, but it turns out honeybee brains have complex sleep dynamics once thought to be exclusively for us big-brain vertebrates. It means the fundamental mechanisms of sleep might be way older and more widespread than we ever imagined. Now, before this new study, we weren't completely in the dark. We knew from way back in 1983 that bees show all the classic behavioral signs of sleep. They go still, their antennae droop, muscle tone relaxes, body temperature drops, and they're harder to wake up. Some even have favorite sleeping positions like clinging upside down or biting onto a plant stem. And we had strong clues that sleep was vital for their little brains. Well-rested bees are better learners, remembering flight paths and where the best flowers are. Sleep-deprived bees, they struggle. They even do a rebound sleep, sleeping longer and deeper the next day if kept awake all night, just like we might. One study even showed that tired forager bees give really sloppy directions in their waggle dances. Imagine trying to get directions from someone who hasn't slept. So we knew sleep helped them consolidate memories and keep their brains sharp. But what was actually happening inside their brains? That was the mystery. Did they have different sleep stages? Were there any specific brain rhythms? For the most part, we just didn't know. This 2025 study from the University of Trento changes everything. Using a fancy technique called two-photon calcium imaging, scientists watched live neuron activity in the bee's antennal lobe, their smell center, while also filming the bee's body. This meant they could match what the bee was doing on the outside with what its brain was doing on the inside, in real time. And the brain data was crystal clear. When the bees were still and sleeping, their antennal lobe neurons started firing in a highly synchronized rhythm, and overall brain activity dropped. Their sensory network basically went into low gear, filtering out unimportant smells, much like our brains tune out minor noises when we're in deep sleep. The researchers even trained a machine learning algorithm to tell the difference between a waking bee brain and a sleeping bee brain. Just by looking at the neural activity, the AI could identify sleep with over 90% accuracy. That's how distinct the sleep brain state is. And when they looked closer at the network, they found connections between different smell processing units actually strengthened during sleep, meaning the whole network was pulsing together in unison. This is incredibly similar to how different parts of our own brains synchronize during slow-wave sleep. And those short bursts of synchronized activity they recorded? Those are the bee equivalent of sleep spindles, a hallmark of mammalian sleep. A bee's brain, just 1 millimeter across, is generating patterns we see in our own much larger brains. So how does this happen? The scientists built a computer model of the bee's antennal lobe network. By tweaking the model, they figured out that simply reducing the strength of the connections between neurons, specifically the inhibitory ones, made the simulated bee brain fall into a sleep-like state. It could no longer properly tell different smells apart, just like a real sleeping bee. This points to a key player, GABA, a neurotransmitter that calms brain activity. It's well known for its role in our sleep, and it seems bees use the same trick. Most of the local neurons in that part of the bee brain release GABA, suggesting this system is central to regulating their sleep, just as it is in us. It's a stunning example of convergent evolution, or perhaps a deeply conserved ancient mechanism. But here's where it gets even more mind-blowing. The researchers saw that while the bees were sleeping, their antennal lobes sometimes replayed patterns of neural activity that were seen when the bee was awake and experiencing smells. It's like the bee's brain was mentally rehearsing the smells of the day. This is a direct neural sign of memory consolidation. They are literally learning in their sleep. We suspected this from behavior, but now we've seen the brain doing it. Bees don't just need sleep. They experience it actively, processing information to learn and remember. This inevitably brings up a fascinating question. Do bees dream? When a bee's brain replays these waking experiences, is that a bee dream? Scientists are careful not to give bees human emotions, but the similarity to how our brains process memories during sleep, especially during REM sleep, when we have vivid dreams, is pretty striking. While bees don't have REM sleep like we do, no rapid eye movements for starters, they do have active and quiet phases of rest. And this new research gives us the neural evidence that their brains enter a synchronized, slow-wave state, similar to our non-REM deep sleep, where memory consolidation also happens. In 2015, a study even suggested that bees might have experiences like our non-REM dreams, after showing that re-exposing sleeping bees to an odor they'd learned helped them remember it better. So maybe bees are dreaming in their own bee way, perhaps of the scent of a field of clover or the route to a sweet patch of nectar. And it's not just bees. Scientists are finding surprisingly complex sleep in other creatures too. Jumping spiders show REM-like eye movements and twitches. Octopuses have active sleep where their skin flashes colors. It seems complex sleep isn't just a big brain thing. Honeybees are now becoming a star model for sleep neuroscience, better in some ways than fruit flies because they're larger and show more complex learning. And if these intricate sleep patterns are so crucial, what happens when they're disturbed? We know pesticides and even artificial light at night can mess with bee sleep. Now, with this new research, scientists can investigate how these stressors affect the actual neural signatures of sleep. Imagine if pesticides prevent bees from entering that deep, synchronized sleep they need for memory. This isn't just academically interesting, it's vital for understanding bee health and pollination, which impacts our food supply. So why is this discovery so captivating? It makes these tiny buzzing insects suddenly very relatable. Their brains, the size of a grass seed, are working through the night in ways remarkably similar to our own. It's a beautiful reminder of the deep biological threads that connect all life, and it paints a picture of science at its most ingenious. A bee in a tiny harness, hooked up to advanced microscopes, revealing secrets of its inner world. The next time you see a bee resting in a flower at dusk, you can wonder if it's not just resting, but maybe, just maybe, dreaming of the day's adventures. This research opens up so many doors. How far back in evolution do these sleep patterns go? Can bees help us understand our own sleep disorders or even inspire new AI learning algorithms? It shows that even the smallest creatures can hold profound secrets. What if the key to understanding some of the biggest mysteries of our own brains, like consciousness or the full purpose of sleep, isn't just found by looking inward or at other mammals, but by looking at the humble honeybee in the surprisingly complex universe humming within its tiny mind? If you're ready to explore more scientific breakthroughs that challenge what we think we know, stick around. There's always more to discover.